All right, here we go. The Aefonic. Brian, Brian.
Hey man.
There's just so much to unpack here.
Hi.
I mean, this is like a lesson in composition. This is like masterclass stuff going on here.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I've
Well,
been
take a
watching everything
compliment.
else, so I feel a little bit amateur in actually in some respects, but whatever. We do the best we can.
Right. And the visuals too. Okay. So when you approach a long form track like this with this kind of composition, where you started, where you took us, where it ended, how do you approach something like that?
Well, that's a really interesting question for me. I think like Analog, who was first on, I come from a background of sort of structured songs, right? I grew up listening to lots of structured songs. And so that's the
Right.
way I think about these things. When I'm composing, I think in a very structured way. And funnily enough, even with modular, I I sort of think about the thing before I start it. I know a lot of people go to modular and just sort of start playing and come up with fantastic compositions. I sort of don't do that. I tend to go to it with a bit of an idea about what I'm looking for. And then I build it from there. Now, but the really funny thing is, it never ends up being what it sounded like in my head originally. But at least I go to it with this sort of structured way. So
Right.
the way that a lot of the modular world sort of plays out is we play these long tracks, right? I mean, that was 20 minutes that you just heard. I hope it wasn't too dull for people. But 20 minutes is an album side, right? I mean, when I was growing up, that's
Right.
half of an album we just made
Right.
up and just played. So you have to put a lot of effort into creating that. So I think I break it up. Basically, what I do is I think of like multiple 5 minute sections, and then I work out how to transition them into each other. And that's pretty much how I put those
Yeah.
things together. And that has been the same for everything I've done in modular, really.
Well, I mean, your sensibilities are just so listenable. It's really a pleasure just to watch it unfold. It's great.
Well, thank you. Do you know what that? I think we see this. I think we see this through your show, through Modular World. I mean, I've watched, I think, every one of them, and you just see fantastic artists, playing fantastic
Yeah.
things. And I think Modular helps with that because I think the richness of of the instruments, right? The richness of the electronics really helps people. It
Yeah.
certainly helps me. It helps me get through things that are not so great because the electronics sound so fantastic. They will help you compose and create compelling things to listen to. That's what I find.
Hmm.
That's why I think
Hmm.
things like drone tracks. I can listen to drone tracks for 40 minutes. Almost nothing goes on, but I love it. And I think that's
Yeah.
down to the
Me
actual
too.
instrument.
Hmm. Um. So we're all gassing pretty hard on your Lyra. Damn it.
Yeah, well, I'm gassing hard on Gerald Fjord's Pulsar 23. I've been on the
Yeah.
waiting list now for some months, and there's no sign of it coming. The Lyra is great, and as you saw, it featured a lot through that whole track. I
Yeah.
really like it a lot. There's a lot more I can do with it, and I've been experimenting with it in these last few weeks, in actual fact, and we'll see some of that, and hopefully in some of the things I put out in the not too distant future. But I think
Mm.
Soma as a company are doing
Yeah.
some revolutionary things.
Totally. When you got it, how did it change your workflow? How did you work it in?
Well, it changed the workflow completely because you sort of play it live, right? There's no
Right.
ability. It's not got MIDI or anything like that. It's not even really got any proper sort of CV or gate in. There are very rudimentary things that you can do with it at that level, but they don't play. It doesn't track pitch, for instance. So the thing that really changed is you actually have to use it as an instrument, a live instrument, and you actually have to tune it and play it. So in the thing we just saw, you saw me pretty much playing it all the way through. Um, but the interesting thing for me was it was what started the track. I was messing around with, so I put it was put through a few effects to create quite a thick sound. Um,
Hmm.
but it was what actually started the beginning of that track for me. I played some stuff, and that's actually where it came from a composition standpoint. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also deceptive because you think, oh, it's just got these touch sense, these well, not even touch sensitive, got these pads, the conductive pads on it, so it can
Right.
just go on and off. But it's actually not like that. You can finesse the pads. You can sort of, you saw me like stroking the pads. I don't know if that's just a weird thing,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I love to do. It's almost like aftertouch on a keyboard or something. You can actually
Yeah.
finesse it better than people think. I think.
Mm. That sounds great.
Yeah, it's
I mean, who wouldn't want to caress the pads of a Lyra?
well, yeah.
I mean, it just sounds great.
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Back to composition with your 5 minute structures.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to build transitions? Like, what's your go-to,
Well,
or do you have one?
well, that's the hardest part, right? I
Right.
find that the 5 minute bit is easy. I think we all probably know that, right? We can all create 5 minute sketches or whatever pretty easily.
Right.
The hard bit is how the hell do you get between one to the other, right? That's always the real trick.
Yeah.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be honest, the real way for me is the mixer. At the end of the day, I have the WMD performance mixer, and we're all good friends with the WMD folks. I'm in Boulder,
Yeah.
so I see the WMD folks a lot. I really love their stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but I build it by having things going on and then using the mixer to using the performance mixer to bring things in and out. And also a quick shout out to 512 and Vector Sequencer. You perhaps saw in that sequence I just did, I had like a launch pad. And perhaps people thought I was like controlling a computer from that. I wasn't. That was all controlling the vector sequencer. So
Mm.
I had a lot of sequences that all programmed in, but I can trigger them from the vector from the launch pad. So
Right.
that was also a major part of the transition stuff, actually being able to bring in things without fiddling around with the actual hardware itself, just being able to, touch a pad and able to take sequences out and bring new sequences in. That was actually a pretty major change in my workflow.
I'm tempted with the Launchpad. Mandy, Jungle of Wires, who was in here earlier, she and I are NerdSec users,
Yeah,
and she uses her Launchpad with the NerdSec.
yeah.
And I've seen her doing that, and I'm kind of gassing over that too. Damn it.
Yeah, well, as I say, as a launch thing and as a transition thing that we were just talking about, I think it's fantastic. I also had the
Yeah.
NerdSec. It wasn't for me because I don't come from a tracker background, and I didn't find it
Hmm.
intuitive to me. However, the vector is more traditional, and that works for me. So that it's horses for courses. I know people that think the NerdSec is the best thing ever, and I don't
Well, it's just
disagree.
yeah,
But
yeah. It's
it
just
depends how
it's a
your head
sequencer
works, I think.
thing. Yeah, yeah. I like you don't have love for trackers, and I'm not super pattern guy. So it's like getting a NerdSec is kind of funny that would work.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that sequencer works for me.
Yeah, whereas I
Um,
really struggled with it. I couldn't make it work, but
I get it. I mean,
but I look its
it's a ball of
features were
wax.
amazing, right? I get I was shocked when I saw what it could do, including sampling and things like that, playback your sampling and stuff. It's a fantastic piece of kit, as many of these
Yeah,
things are nowadays. We're so lucky in the modular world. Some of the pieces of
yeah,
equipment we get are just amazing.
yeah. But sequencers are one of those things that it's like they're so personal, and I think everyone who, sort of like DAW software, that we all kind of pick one and learn how to really rock it.
Yeah, I mean,
But that vector is really popular. Yeah.
we were talking about the DAWs in one of the earlier sessions on the chat. People talking about Bitwig, and I've gone to Bitwig
Yeah.
recently being
Oh, really?
over the last 6 months. Yeah, I was a like you. I started off in Cubase World when that Gas album that you mentioned was all done on Cubase, basically
Hmm.
in Matt, my buddy's bedroom and my bedroom. That's where we record it and everything. And that
Mm-hmm.
was all Cubase, but all Cubase on Ataris when Ataris were the only things. And
Cheers, man.
and then we moved on. I moved on to Ableton for many years, and I just recently moved
Mm.
into Bitwig. And the learning curve's been nasty. I mean, it's difficult
Really?
moving from a DAW, but I really love it. But as I was saying to someone on the chat, the problem is I miss some of the Ableton stuff, so I sort of end up in a bit of both, which is not a good way for workflow. You don't really want to be working in two DAWs if you can help
Right.
it. So But yeah, I think Bitwig's where I'm staying for the moment for sure.
Is your way into Bitwig through the ES9?
Well, you see, the ES9 actually arrived this morning. So
Ah,
it's fired up, but it's not working. But there was an ES8 in its place earlier,
okay.
which has gone to one of our friends in New York Modular Synth Society. Um, and yes, it was via the ES8 previously, but it will be via the ES9 from this point forward. Yeah.
Hmm. Talk about amazing piece of kit. I mean, you know, that ES9 is really something. The price and the size right now isn't something that I can deal with, so I'm just mixing straight in. Um,
Yeah,
but that's a pretty powerful little thing.
it is, and you know what? I probably wouldn't have got it apart from life's change, right? I bought my rig and everything with full intention of playing out all the time, and then COVID hit, and playing out was no longer a thing. And I think, like lots of people, I've now morphed over this last 6 months into having a live rig that's also attached to a DAW, which I wasn't really interested in 6 or 8 months ago because it was too hard to keep taking it apart. Um, but now it's this hybrid thing where I want the DAW involved because there's certain soft synths that I use mainly for pads.
Absolutely.
But I mainly use the this hardware here, but they need to be well synced and everything. So that's where the ES9 comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to be facing this situation because same way I used VSTs or still do
Yeah.
VSTs and Cubase. That's where I can really sprint.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong
And
with that. I think you personally have gone through this. Should we? Shouldn't we? And there's no shouldn't we? Shouldn't we? It's whatever makes great music, right? And
absolutely,
that's the way it should be. And so
definitely,
I've got over
definitely,
that. I did struggle with that for a while. It was like, oh, I can't be using the computer. I've got a modular, but that's just nonsense. You use
no,
everything you can.
I haven't struggled with that at all.
Oh, I did, but yeah, yeah. But
No.
I think that's because I was in the box a lot. Right from your intro, I went 100% in the box. I got rid of all my
Mm-hmm.
hardware, and then I basically didn't like it. It didn't have enough dynamic range for me. I know that sounds mad, but it just didn't. And but the hybrid world of having the hardware and having a little bit of the DAW stuff just works perfectly for me right now.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Man, every time I see you play, it's just such a jaw dropper. Can we just talk really quickly about your visuals?
Sure.
Because this is an important part of your show.
Yeah, it is.
How are you generating those? What's the story there?
Well, I'm not a visuals expert, but in a different world, I'd like to be. I just simply don't have the time. I'm sure, like lots of people watching this, we all like anything that's artistic, right? So I'd love to spend time doing lots of time on visuals and so on, but I don't have the energy to get into it as deep as I need to, or the money to get into it as I would like to do. So I spend time creating video stuff online. There's a few sites you can get. I've used Rotor Video and so on. They have sort of stock samples. You put them together, it can work to a beat, and so I use that, and then I overlay it with my own stuff in video software with like logos and things like that. And I tend to use that. It doesn't. It's not typically beat synced or anything. If there's something slow, I'll do a slower type video, and if it's a bit faster, I'll do a faster sort of video. But it's not beat synced. It's not meant to sync in time. But I do like if it's just light shows or even whatever. I like to have those things. As I say, if I had more time, I'd spend more time on it. But I think the two things go together. They go together for me at least. So I try to put effort into both of those things.
Well, what you're doing visually just works great. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
You don't need any more time on it. It looks great.
Well, we always all feel like we do, right? And we're never always
Sure.
satisfied with what we get.
Sure, sure.
It helps.
Yeah.
I had to put like a big tarpaulin up at the window so that I could project onto it. I got a little cheap $80 projector to do that. So it's not an expensive thing. People can do it quite easily and quite inexpensively.
An $80 projector?
Yeah, from Amazon. You just buy them you buy it on Amazon. It's $80. I projected it onto the thing as you saw, and I put a cloth across the window, and that was what you just saw. Yeah.
Would you please send me the link to an $80? I mean, really?
I absolutely will. Yeah, you'll be shocked.
I will be shocked. I'm going to buy it.
I will send it. Absolutely.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Thanks for this, man. It's just a pleasure to have you.
So it's my pleasure being here, and it's my pleasure talking to this. What a fantastic community we have here. I'm just so pleased to be a part of it.
Well, David, Soto Sign Mountain talks about how you're one of his like favorite people on the planet. So
Well, me
I'm really happy to
and
know you.
David too. I think we got into this at roughly the same time, although I'm much
Mm,
older than David. But we've been learning as we've been going along, and David's been a fantastic force here in Colorado. We're a little state,
yes,
but
he
we have a lot
is.
of people who do modular, and we're very fortunate to have WMD here, who are fantastic sponsors of everything we do. So, we're
Yeah. No,
lucky.
the Colorado scene has just become very near and dear to me.
Now, well, Johno, we're looking forward to being here, mate. I have a fantastic bedroom suite downstairs. You can stay in there anytime you like.
I'm gonna come out with my wife and daughters though. It's not gonna be just me.
Oh, that's fine.
I can't be crashing in there with the whole fam.
Well, you sort of can actually, but we'll talk about that offline.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's stay in touch. We'll talk soon, man. All right. What a guy. Brian Horsfield, the Aefonic, ladies and gentlemen. The Aefonic.